Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the New York City Housing Authority's fiscal year 2016 draft annual plan and significant amendment to the fiscal year 2015 annual plan. My name is Leroy Williams, and I'm the Deputy Director for Manhattan Community Operations. I would like to also introduce Property Management Director Conrad Vasquez, that's in the back. I would like to also acknowledge any resident leader that's here tonight. Can you please stand? That is you, Ms. Huff. But before we begin, I would like to inform you of the following. Interpreters, please join me at the podium. We have available interpreters in Spanish, Chinese, and Russian. They are going to come up now and introduce themselves and explain that we have wireless interpretation equipment that will enable you to hear the presentation simultaneously in Spanish, Chinese, and Russian. We also have sign language interpreters who will be signing during the presentation.
Buenas noches a todos. Mi nombre es Miriam Hernández, soy intérprete. Quiero avisarles a todas las personas que necesitan interpretación y traducción en español que por favor se acerquen a nosotros en la parte de atrás para ayudarle con el equipo y así poder ustedes entender en el español la presentación que vamos a tener hoy día. Muchas gracias.
各位晚安，我们今晚会为大家提供中文的翻译服务，如果有需要的话，请到后面的桌子上领取耳机，谢谢。
Добрый вечер, добро пожаловать на это собрание. Мы предоставляем услуги русского переводчика. Если вам нужна помощь русского переводчика, пожалуйста, подойдите в конец зала и возьмите вот это оборудование. Спасибо.
Sign language interpreters from Geneva Worldwide, we're here for you. If you are hearing impaired and need deaf, please come to the front. We're ready to interpret everything for you now. Thank you. Also, I would like to acknowledge the NYCHA staff that's here tonight. All NYCHA staff, please raise your hands. We hope that as many people as possible will have the opportunity to express themselves in their comments. So before we begin, let's go over the following ground rules. If you have a particular personal issue pertaining to your apartment, we have property maintenance staff available right outside to address your concerns. Resource tables have been set up outside with information on resident economic empowerment and sustainability, fair housing, family services, citywide programs, and also copies of tonight's presentation. Meeting guidelines, let's hear from everyone. No interruptions. Treat everyone with respect. Respect different opinions. Speaker slips are available to register for the open comment time at the end of the presentation. In accordance with Section 5A of the United States Act of 1937, as amended, housing authorities are required to develop, with review and input from residents and the general public, an annual plan that outlines its priorities for the upcoming year. As mandated, NYCHA has developed a draft agency plan for fiscal year 2016 and a significant amendment to the fiscal year 2015 annual plan. In order to facilitate comments, the authority is holding 5 town hall meetings during the month of July. Every household should have received a robocall informing them of the town hall meetings and public hearing. Flyers were posted in every building, senior and community center, and management offices. The flyers were also translated into Spanish, Chinese, and Russian. The fiscal year 2016 draft annual plan and the significant amendment to the fiscal year 2015 plan were made available on June 26, 2015 for public inspection at NYCHA's principal office at 250 Broadway and on NYCHA website. Copies are also available at each local public housing development management office, at all community operations management and leased housing borough offices, and at 5 designated community centers. The draft plan and the significant amendment to the fiscal year 2015 plan are also being sent to all Resident Advisory Board, RAB, delegates and alternates, to each Tenant Association President and Section 8 RAB representatives. In addition, NYCHA encourages residents, advocates, and the public to provide written comments on the draft plan for fiscal year 2016 and the significant amendment to the fiscal year 2015 plan. The comments will be accepted via fax through the mail and collected at each town hall meeting. In an attempt to accurately reflect NYCHA's most crucial priorities and needs, the draft plan and significant amendment is an evolving document. The purpose of this town hall meeting today is to provide a venue where residents and the public are invited to comment on the draft plan and significant amendment. NYCHA staff will make brief presentations on the topic listed on the screen. There will then be an open mic for question and comments. Please complete a speaker slip if you would like to make a comment on the plan or have any questions. This is a sample of the speaker slip, and you can fill it out right outside the door. The topics of tonight's annual town hall meeting will be Next Generation NYCHA, Next Gen NYCHA Development Sites, Rent-to Assistance Demonstration, RAD at Ocean Bay, Bayside, Make Mount Haven, Maintenance and Repairs, OpMom Update, Eligibility, Selection and Admission Policies, Financial Resources, and Capital Projects. So now I would like to introduce the Senior Vice President for Operations to speak about Next Gen NYCHA, Mr. Brian Clark.
Thank you, Leroy. And good evening, everyone. Thank you. Safe, clean, connected. This is our vision for Next Generation NYCHA. And tonight, I'm going to provide a high-level overview of our plan to achieve it. When Chair Olatoye was appointed by Mayor de Blasio, he sat down and gave our chair, 2 orders. It was one, you have to reset the relationship with our tenants, with our residents, with our employees, and all NYCHA stakeholders, and then to devise a plan to sustain the agency over the next 10 years. I think everyone is well aware of the challenges that our agency has. We have buildings that are growing old each day. Average age of our buildings is somewhere around 45, 46 years old. And as our buildings age, they have greater needs. We've had disinvestment from the federal government as well as the state government. We haven't gotten our full subsidy in years, and certainly haven't gotten the capital dollars that we need. Next year, we're facing a $98 million operating budget deficit, and if that doesn't change, by the year 2025, we're going to have a $425 million operating budget deficit. As far as capital needs are concerned, we have approximately $17 billion in capital needs. And we only have about 10% of that funding to do that work. Our population, our resident age, just like our buildings, are growing older. NYCHA is the best deal in the city as far as affordable housing. The average New Yorker is paying approximately 50% of their income in rent, and NYCHA residents aren't paying any more than 30%. So this is a very valuable resource that we must preserve. But we're aware of these challenges, and they didn't happen overnight. And we have a plan. We have a plan to overcome these challenges and, preserve the housing authority. And our plan is built on 4 goals. 1, funding. We need to achieve short-term financial stability and diversified funding long-term, because we know that Washington isn't going to be the answer for us, and neither is Albany right now. We're seeing some good things right now from the de Blasio administration. Last year, they forgave the payment to NYPD, which was really a great thing. We kept about $40 million in-house. And this year, the mayor has said during his administration, he is not going to require NYCHA to pay NYPD, and we're going to save $70 million a year that's going to stay with us that we can use to plug our operating deficit and do some of the repairs that are desperately in need. He's also forgive the pilot payment. Pilot payment is payment in lieu of taxes. And that's about approximately $30 million a year. So we're getting $100 million a year moving forward, in operating funds that we desperately need, which is really a good thing. And then also, he's baselined in the capital plan, city cap plan, $100 million over the next 3 years for roofing projects to help preserve our buildings. And this year, the state government, first time in I don't know how long, we got $100 million in modernization funding to do work at our developments. So these are good steps in the right direction, but we need a lot more. But I think we should, applaud the de Blasio administration, certainly for the forgiveness in NYPD and for the pilot payment. A little support. So also, we need to provide better services. We need to manage better. We need to be more efficient and more effective as landlords. And we're doing that. This summer, we're launching an application, we call it My NYCHA, where residents that have smartphones or iPads are going to be able to make appointments right online. And they'll be able to check the status of work orders right online. So we're trying to put transparency into our operation. We're also changing the way in which we do apartment inspections. Moving forward, we're going to be making repairs as we do the inspection. Right now, we have a process where we're sending inspectors out. They're recording the deficiencies, the repairs that are needed in the apartment, and then we're asking the resident to call to schedule the appointment later, or we're calling to schedule the appointments later. But we're inconveniencing the resident. Why not do repairs while we're in there doing the inspection? So we're doing that. We've actually started a pilot right now in June at 3 developments, and we're going to be expanding it to 15 more this month. And so while we're doing the inspection, we're making simple repairs, and so far we've gotten great feedback from the staff as well as from our tenants. We are also trying out dispatching for our maintenance staff and skilled trades. We're doing this right now, the development in Queens. And what that means is when we assign somebody to a work order, we're actually putting it into the computer system. They're calling in when that work order is complete, and we're entering the information in their real time. Right now, it's pretty much a paper-driven process where we're waiting for the paper work orders to come out, be completed, be put in somebody's inbox, and have to be put in manually. And that creates a whole lot of problems, delayed data, incorrect information, and mistakes in entering the data. So we realize that, and that's why we're trying out dispatching to cut down on those errors and be more efficient. And then also we're launching a project that we call One Call, and right now, when a resident has a repair that requires multiple trades, So for example, a plumbing repair that requires a wall break. What we do is we schedule each work order one at a time. We go out, we complete the maintenance work, verify the conditions, come back, close the work order, then schedule the next appointment. Plumber goes out, does the work, come back, then we schedule the next appointment. Very inconvenient to our tenants, and repairs can stretch over months now. What we're looking to do, and we're starting a pilot up in the Bronx in August, is we're actually going to go to the apartment for that first maintenance appointment. We're going to figure out the work that needs to be done, and then we're going to call the resident back and schedule all of that work up front so the tenant is going to know when that work is going to be complete. So all those trades are going to be scheduled up front. And our goal is to actually be able to collapse that into one package. So if the resident is available, we can start the work Tuesday and finish it by Friday. So that's our overall goal. And so those are things we're doing right now. And then we need to certainly rebuild our properties. I talked a little bit about our challenges with the capital funding. So we have to be creative in the way that we get funding. We have to be really innovative, financially. So we need to, where we can, maximize tax credits to invest in our properties. Also, shortly, Nicole Ferreira is going to be up here to talk to you a little bit about some of our development projects, where we plan on building that much-needed affordable housing on our properties and also generating income to help us close our budget deficits. And also to talk about an innovative project called Rental Assistance Demonstration Project, or RAD, where also we can get much-needed funding into the agency. So we have a lot of good things going on that we're going to talk about shortly. And then the other thing that we need to do with our plan is really change the way in which we engage our residents. For many years, the Housing Authority has been a direct service provider for many of our social services. We haven't been funded for that. We're funded as a landlord, as a real estate management property. And so we can't continue to provide those services. But we know that those services are desperately needed. I mean, I talked a little bit about how our senior population at our developments are growing. So these services are desperately needed. And what we want to do, instead of being a direct service provider, we want to help connect residents to these much-needed services and bring the nonprofits and the community-based organizations into our developments. So anyhow, when you look at Next Generation NYCHA, it's really a call to action. And I really wish this room was filled with residents, but I certainly appreciate those that came out tonight. Please, there's a table in the back if you'd like to be involved in some focus groups with resident engagement and Next Generation NYCHA. So there's a table in the back you can sign up. But please stay involved, stay connected. Our Next Generation plan is available. It's much greater detail online right from our website. You can sign up for our Facebook page, Twitter. The bottom line is please stay engaged, get involved, because we can't do this alone. We need everybody's help. So with that, I'd like to call up our next presenter, very talented young lady, Nicole Ferreira from our development department.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening. Tonight, I want to talk to you about Next Generation NYCHA and how that works with real estate development. The first slide here, the goals of Next Generation NYCHA, one of the main goals is to preserve public housing and create more affordable housing opportunities for NYCHA residents and low-income New Yorkers. So you'll see here that NYCHA released a request for proposals for developers to build new affordable housing on vacant NYCHA land at 3 sites across the city. One site in downtown Brooklyn at Ingersoll Houses, one site at Millbrook Houses in the South Bronx, and a site at Van Dyke in Brownsville. The goal of the program is senior housing and low-income family housing for residents that will have a priority, and also for other New Yorkers that will be able to gain access through the lottery process. Next, so that was new construction. The other side of Next Generation NYCHA, that, as I just mentioned, is the preservation of public housing. So tonight I'm here to talk about the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program that is through HUD. That program will take the public housing funding that we receive and shift it over to the Section 8 platform, but it's a special Section 8 program created for public housing residents that maintains the tenants' rights in line with their public housing rights. And it offers NYCHA an opportunity to be able to borrow money on these buildings and do a comprehensive rehabilitation, new kitchens, new bathrooms, new elevators, really address the capital needs. We're rolling out this pilot program at Ocean Bay, Bayside, which is 1,400 units approximately, over 24 buildings in the Rockaways. So the main objective of the program is to stabilize the funding source for these buildings and maintain long-term affordability for these units so that we don't lose units. And the next thing is the Make Mott Haven Plan. So the Make Mott Haven Plan is a neighborhood revitalization plan developed by residents, community stakeholders, city agencies, and NYCHA. This plan includes improvements to the physical landscape to create a safer environment and the expansion of educational programs, supporting things such as youth and young people on a path away from criminal behavior. NYCHA was able to identify over $200 million in resources from city and community partners to help implement this plan. We are disappointed that HUD did not select our Mott Haven application to move forward in the Choice Neighborhoods process because we had applied for $30 million in grant funding from HUD. However, this decision won't deter NYCHA's continued commitment to improve the lives of our residents and the neighborhood. The dozens of partners convened in this process are still actively working to execute this plan and have committed the $200 million in funding, and we will be working with them in the upcoming months and the residents to roll out an execution of this Make Mott Haven plan. So now I want to bring back Brian Clark to go over OPMOM.
Thank you, Nicole. So earlier I talked about one of the goals of our Next Generation NYCHA is for us to become an efficient and effective landlord, real estate manager. And we've started a pilot. We call it the Optimal Property Management Operating Model. And what we did is it's really, if you were to take a look at the organizational chart at the Housing Authority, 20, 25 years ago versus now, you would see a significant difference. You would see multiple layers, in the organizational chart now versus back 20, 25 years ago. And what we're trying to do with what we call OPMOM is a number of things. But one is really to simplify the organizational structure. When you have multiple levels, you have inefficiencies, slow decision-making, centralized control, and and who better to make the decisions on things that need to be done than the folks that actually are on the front line, working at the development. And so through OPMOM, what we did is we actually removed some of the layers in our organizational structure. We built the budget for the development based on the HUD formula, and we gave the property manager extensive financial training, and they were actually able to build their budget and their staffing, based on that model. So they were actually able to hire additional caretakers and maintenance staff. We also, and I think this will resonate with a lot of folks, is we deconsolidated, developments. So many years ago, I guess actually 10 years ago, some developments were actually consolidated together where we actually merged management offices. They were geographically close as a cost-saving measure. But what we saw, unfortunately, was that it created certainly some trying conditions at the developments, because of the lack of actually having a management office presence right there. And so we saw a lot of issues with performance there. So what we wanted to do is to deconsolidate and really closely measure performance and see how it goes. So we were actually able to deconsolidate, three consolidations. Also, we created performance metrics or a report card that really focuses on 4 different areas. One is financial. So each month we sit down with the property manager and go over where they are with their finances, how they're doing with their overtime budget, how they're doing with their apartment turnover, renting up the units. Then the next section that we look at is overall process and performance when it comes to maintenance and repair. So we're looking at the maintenance service levels and the skilled trade service levels, apartment prep time. And then the third area that we look at, and this is something very new, is customer satisfaction, where we are looking at the TA presidents that are involved in this pilot can actually provide a monthly report on how they think the housing authority is doing at that development. So we actually get a grade from the folks from the development, as well as any issues that they feel is important. And also we measure engagement in a way. And more or less what we do is we look at, are there TA meetings being conducted there, and are this development management attending the TA meetings? Some very simple things. And also we're developing a customer satisfaction survey that we should be launching shortly. And then the fourth category we look at is staff training and overall safety performance. And so far we've seen some really good results at these developments. We still have some challenges at others, but we feel like we're making progress. And the things that we're learning through this project, we're not waiting until the end of the pilot. We're kind of bringing these things and spreading them out throughout the agency as we move along. And so I think you're going to really see shortly the agency actually flattening some of our organizational structure, within operations. We feel that that's worked out pretty well. So the 18 developments are right here in Manhattan. We have East River, Wilson White, Metro North, Jefferson, Wagner, and Lincoln. We're going to be putting our report cards online in the fall, and certainly providing information through our websites, and certainly public meetings. So stay connected, and more information to come. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is actually a significant policy change. So part of the overall plan process is, when we do have these policy changes, is to propose them for comment by the public, by our tenants. And so what we're proposing are changes to our eligibility and selection and admission policies. What we're doing is in order to comply with HUD obligations, we are proposing to change our transfer priority from T3 to T0. Our TSAP, our tenant selection and assignment plan, it's available online, but it is complicated and quite detailed. But more or less the simple version is we're moving reasonable accommodations up to the highest priority for tenant transfers. So for somebody who lives, let's say, on the 3rd floor of a non-elevator building, and their life situation has changed where they're now having challenges with mobility, let's say they're wheelchair bound, they can put a transfer in, it would become a T0, and they would get the highest priority for being transferred to either a ground floor apartment or an elevator building. Okay? So feel free to comment tonight or submit your comments in writing or online. So with that, I'd like to present our next speaker, Richard Couch, the money man, our Executive Vice President for the Department of Budget and Financial Planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Well, I want to spend a few minutes talking to everyone about our financial profile, where we are today, and some of the impacts from Next Generation NYCHA. As Brian had mentioned, we currently face a budget deficit of $98 million. I want to talk to you about how that occurs and some of the actions we're taking to address that. As many people know, we are a federally subsidized agency. We receive roughly 1/3 of our funding from the federal government in the form of a traditional public housing federal subsidy. The other third of our subsidy comes in the form of our Section 8 vouchers or our Section 8 HAP program, and the remaining third is roughly provided by the tenant rent and fee income. As you can see from the chart to my left, revenues are about $3.1 billion, while expenses are $3.2 billion projected for year 2015. Our largest expenses are many times uncontrollable. Utilities, for example, comprise 18% of our expenses, a large expense we don't really have the ability to change. On the next chart, what this is showing here, if you look on the left column, is showing the profile in the $98 million on a total NYCHA basis. Our operating deficit is currently in our traditional public housing portfolio. Our Section 8 leased housing portfolio has a balanced budget, but we do have this $98 million deficiency in our budget that if you look on the right-hand column, you can see how it breaks down on a per unit basis. Our rental revenue, or the rental income provided by tenants, is about $468 per apartment unit on average, as well as $421 per unit on average. In total, that's $966 per unit that we receive, but you can see below that our expenses are about $1,000 per unit. That's a $46 per unit deficit for every apartment unit we have. On the next chart, you'll see is really taking us from our $98 million and some of the impacts that Next Generation NYCHA has on our budget. We are looking to improve some of our rent collection methods. We are expecting and hoping to get about $5 million from additional rent collected. We have $2 million we're looking to project based on unfunded units. We currently have about 5,000 of historically city and state unfunded units. They receive no federal subsidy today. We are looking to convert some of those units to Section 8, receive a Section 8 voucher, and receive additional funding. And the number of units we're looking to convert this year in 2015 should provide us with an additional $2 million. And then, as Brian had mentioned, our pilot payment, we typically pay anywhere from a $30 million to a $33 million annual payment to the city. That's a payment in lieu of taxes. The Mayor de Blasio administration has waived that requirement. So when we first put together our Next Generation NYCHA plan, we thought that we would be able to get the second half of 2015 waived, which the $17 million on the chart shows, bringing our revised deficit down to $74 million. Additionally, we have heard just recently that the previous 6 months will also be waived. That will provide an additional $17 million. That'll get our deficit down below $60 million. So that is good news, but we still have a ways to go, and we're still working with the city. We'll continue to work with the residents and continue to look to work with creating additional efficiencies as we try to balance the budget. I'm now going to turn it over to Anne Marie Flatley. She's the Vice President for Research and Management, and she's going to discuss flat rent.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Anne Marie Flatley, and I'm the VP for Research and Management Analysis. Before I begin, I would like to say that all the material that's been presented tonight is available outside, so as you leave this evening, we have the presentations available in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Russian, and we also have very detailed rent tables available outside, also translated. This material is also available right now on NYCHA's website for downloading too. So I'd like to get started. I'm here tonight to talk about NYCHA's flat rents. Many of you may remember or know these actually by their old name, which they used to be called ceiling rents. So between 1989 and 2006, the most someone would pay for, say, a two-bedroom apartment in NYCHA used to be $495. Since 2006, given the financial situation that started back then, we've been increasing these flat rents or the ceiling rents over time. And how we did it is we split families up into what we called income bands. So lower income families that had incomes of around $25,000 or $30,000, maybe there was one person working in the family, paid a lower rent than another family that had income of maybe $90,000 or $80,000 because they had more people working full-time in the family. So those families had higher rents. So we did that. NYCHA did that from 2006 until about January, we still continued. We do it from 2006 to 2014. What happened in January of 2014 is that there was a new law passed. It was the 2014 Appropriations Act. For those of you that regularly go to these meetings, we held meetings last spring as well as in the summer. What happened is that was about a 700-page document. It was finally, Congress, after 2 years, finally passed the official budget for the country. Within that huge document was about 5 sentences that changed how flat rents or ceiling rents are charged in public housing. So before, where NYCHA could decide how much we would charge for rent, and this wasn't just NYCHA, this was Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, White Plains. At the time, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who's the agency that regulates us, let us decide what to charge. The law now said, starting in January when it was passed, that housing authorities now have to charge what's called 80% of fair market rent as their maximum rent. No one's going to pay more than 30% of their income, but essentially what it's causing us to do is to raise our ceiling or our flat rents higher and faster than we originally planned. When the law was passed in January, it took the federal government about 5 months to actually give directions on how to implement this or how to make it happen. And what HUD came out with is they said, okay, housing authorities, your 3-year clock is going to start in June of 2014. Within 3 years, you have to increase these rents. Again, these are only going to affect families with higher incomes, which is around 20% of total families within the agency. Most of you in the room will not be impacted by this rent increase. So when HUD released that last year, they said, housing authorities, you have 3 years to implement it. We ran the numbers and we found that many families were going to be hit with very high rent increases. So we try to work with the congressional delegation, with the mayor's office to pressure HUD to allow housing authorities, including NYCHA, to have more time to do these rent increases. In October, we submitted our official request to HUD for the extension. We asked to implement this over 5 years. We went back and forth. The mayor himself spoke to Julian Castro, who at the time, who actually still is the secretary of HUD. HUD would not allow a 5-year increase. What they did allow the housing authority to do, of NYCHA to do, is to start our 3-year time clock this June. So those of you in the room, you may have been to these. We have these same meetings in March of this year, and it was to change our rents mid-year. So we had a rent increase that went into effect this June, but it's with the annual reviews that are starting this June, with rent becoming effective in November. The chart that you're looking at on the screen are the rents for next year. So next year, if you have an annual review from June 1st onward, this is what your rent could be if you have that particular income limit. So these are the rents starting in June 1, 2016, with the rent becoming effective or changing in November of 2016. The reason why we have to present it tonight is because we are presenting any changes that are happening in calendar year of 2016. What I'd like to do is, as I said, most of you in the room will not be impacted. You have to have a certain income level in order to reach this rent. So outside, as I said, there are very detailed rent tables that show by family size, by bedroom size, and income level what the rent may be. What I'd like to do is to read out the minimum incomes that you have to be at in order to be affected by this rent increase. So if you're in a studio apartment and your income is below $25,600, you're not affected by this. If you're in a one-bedroom and your income is below $26,760, again, you'll continue to pay your income-based rent. For a two-bedroom, your total income has to be at least $31,680. For a three-bedroom, $40,760. For a four-bedroom, $45,680. For a five-bedroom, $52,480. And for a six-bedroom, $59,360. If your income is way below this, that's totally fine. You'll still continue to pay what's called the income-based rent, or no more than 30% of your income for rent. Now, I know this was a lot of information to throw out. A lot of you may have very personal questions, depending on what your family situation, your income is. I'm more than happy to stay behind after the questions to speak to you personally. I'll be right down here in the front to answer your personal questions about your income and your rent situation. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kate Seeley-Kirk to talk about capital projects.
Hello, I'm Kate Seeley-Kirk, Director of City Capital Program and the Capital Projects Division. First, I wanted to just talk you through the total federal funds of $811 million in our fiscal year 15 to 2019 five-year capital plan. Approximately 46%, or $375 million, is for brickwork, roofs, windows, so major core and shell. $157 million is for comprehensive repairs or major modernization. $55 million is supporting our Bond B program. $50 million is for heating systems such as boilers. $25 million is going towards fire alarms. And $82 million for miscellaneous projects, including elevators. And then $67 million for administrative frontline costs. Next. There's additional funding of $3.116 billion, which includes city capital funding, approximately $100 million of projects that local elected officials give to NYCHA. The Mayor's Action Plan, including our anti-violence campaign, $35 million in exterior lighting. There's also security improvements at our high crime locations, including $100 million. That's from asset forfeiture. And then a large chunk of this is from our Sandy recovery funding, both from insurance, FEMA, and Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Funds of over $3 billion projected. I just want to say that NYCHA's capital planning strategy includes aligning our capital construction, day-to-day maintenance and operation, and future development of affordable housing to determine our capital investments. So for each development, we're identifying a strategy based on building deterioration, operational efficiency, development size, and the site plan. Now I'll turn it back to Leroy Williams.
So now we're going into the comment and question part of tonight's town hall meeting. We hope that as many people as possible will have the opportunity to express their comments. So before we begin, let's go over the following ground rules. I'm sorry. 5 minutes? Okay, so it was requested that we up the amount of minutes to actual 5 minutes, so we do approve of the 5 minutes. Okay? You're welcome. If you wish to speak, first you must fill out a speaker slip. Again, speaker slips are in the front as you came in. Anyone that would like to speak has to fill out a speaker slip. When you begin to speak, the green light will be on and the time will begin to count down. When the yellow light is lit, it means that you should start to conclude your remarks. When the red light is turned on, your 5 minutes to provide comment is over. A table has been set up outside so that written comment may also be submitted. Remember, we are here to comment on NYCHA's fiscal year 2015 draft annual plan. Any personal comments or criticisms of oral attacks on NYCHA personnel, resident representatives, and public attendees, or any demeaning, discriminatory, or ethnic slurs or vulgar language will not be tolerated. I, as the moderator of this evening's meeting, reserve the right to immediately move on to the next speaker in line if any comments are deemed inappropriate. The moderator on the stage is in charge of the town hall meeting. Please be considerate of your neighbors and obey the moderator's rules. We are here to consider issues that are concerned to everyone, not issues that concern a single person or family. If you have issues that concern only you or your apartment, we have tables set up outside specifically for that purpose. You may fill out a resident response form at the table outside marked resident complaints. Again, we have general information tables that are available outside with information that may be displayed and for you to take at the end of this meeting. We have resources from resident economic empowerment and sustainability, fair housing, social services, citywide programs, a health provider, and again, also the paperwork that we talked about tonight. So let's go into the speakers. The first speaker is Mary Rose Salba from Vladeck Houses. Back here. It's a... Please make sure that you speak into the mic because we have a stenographer that's taking notes and she needs to make sure that she takes down all of your comments.
Okay, well, I only have 5 minutes. I just want to say to you, good luck with this call to action here that you have. Sign up for focus group. It's in your local police
Excuse me, ma'am.
service.
I'm sorry. Can you start because the stenographer cannot hear you.
I would like to say good luck to you, the housing people here, all your administrators and whatever. Good luck to this page here that says a call to action. Sign up for a focus group. Attend your local police service area, PSA meeting. Talk to your property manager. Sign up for NYCHA alerts. Read NYCHA Journal. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Good luck to you with that one. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you.
See how many people you have here?
Okay. So our next speaker is Mary McGee from Fulton Houses.
Hello, good evening. My name is Mayor McGee.
Please speak up into the mic.
My name is Mayor McGee. I'm from Fulton Houses. I was listening to some of the things that you were explaining about NYCHA's next generation and the transparency that NYCHA now has, but there's still certain things that you're not sharing with us as residents and a NYCHA community. And that is the amount of money NYCHA is making by leasing properties. How much is NYCHA making for the land that they're leasing for these private developers to build on our developments, in our developments? You know, you're talking about transparency, but there is minimal transparency. NYCHA is also saying that you're trying to the alarm systems. I know of a senior center that was closed down 2 weeks because the alarm system wasn't working. 2 weeks, it were closed down. When they reopened, the alarm system's still not working. You have a security person sitting there doing nothing all day, just in case there's a fire. Everybody knows where that one exit is. But you're saying that you're trying to conserve money, but I see so much money being wasted. If you look at this room right now, I can tell you that Fulton Houses was not posted of these meetings. I went to management office last week with the flyer because I received it from Annabelle Palma. She's from the Bronx. I'm from Manhattan. I'm on her mailing list. She sent me the flyer. If she wouldn't have sent it to me, I would have known. I am linked up to your Facebook, and I didn't see it there. I saw about the resident employment, about the entrepreneur cooking program, but you're talking about transparency. You need to reach out to residents. You're depending on these developments to reach out to their residents. They're telling you they're doing it. As you can see, they're not. So now what consequences are they paying? As for what Mr. Clark also stated about residents with disabilities and how they'll put you on a waiting list, but you didn't say how long these residents are going to be on waiting lists to move to a proper apartment where they have accessibility. You can be on this list for 20 years at times. I know a family living in my development. They're 4, mother, father, and 2 sons that are disabled, and all of them. And they're living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Okay, so the system does need work, but we need more work faster than later because you have too many residents paying the consequences because you have an available apartment, but you won't give it to the residents who are in need. You'll give it to somebody outside first. Where you have people from domestic violence coming in, you give them the opportunity to move into the apartment before you would a resident who has certain needs, and that needs to change. I understand there's a major need for apartments, but in order for NYCHA to work, you have to take care of the residents you have first, and then fill in the gaps. So I thank you for your time, and I ask for NYCHA to please don't just put it on the website. You have many residents who don't do the internet. They don't do Facebook. You have so many seniors, I bet you they have issues, and they want to make their comments and concerns, but they didn't know about this meeting. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Frida Morgan from William Reed Houses. You're not going to... Okay, she will not be speaking tonight. Speaker number 4, Doris Huff from Compost Plaza.
Of course.
Good evening, all. Doris Huff, Compost Plaza, TA President / CNC Corporation as well. Anyway, my first thing is that with the source of I have an issue with the source of additional capital funding. Is it possible, are we ever going to get a listing of what developments are going to get that capital project? That capital funding? I think it should have been more than just this one page. We should have been able to get a list of what developments. I mean, they are going to get 3.166 billion. Is it possible we can get a list for that? That's one. My other thing is this OPMOM and the consolidation. Was the residents, well, no, we already, but how are they doing that as far as letting that out? Like you said, there's certain groups. Are there any other developments that's going to be a part of the OPMOM thing there besides the group that you already have up there? The list that you already have? Is there going to be other developments like Compost 2 or anything like that, LES 5, you know, the one you just consolidated? Because he did say the word consolidation. So Compost Plaza just got consolidated. So we would like to know if we're going to be a part of that OPMOM. It's not on the list. Is it going to be there next year? Is it going to be there in a couple of months? We haven't got that answer yet. I've been asking that for the last 9 months. I haven't got an answer yet. My other thing is, when will we know if Compost falls under the new generations of the list of the developments to be sold? When will we find that out? If it's going to happen, if it's going to be privatized? I'm shocking you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, you're not going to respond. Okay. But those are just questions. And then this one goes out to this question goes out to Mr. Brian. Hi, Brian Clark. You know me very well. Can you please come out and look at building 641, 643, and 612? It looks like it's being cleaned on a weekend schedule every day. So I would appreciate it if you would come out and smell what us tenants are smelling when we walk into that door. Because that's uncalled for and it's unacceptable. Oh, they're going to answer that one?
Yes, they're going to answer some of the questions that you had.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to wait.
Good evening, Ms. Huff. Good to
Good
see
evening.
you again. Hi.
Same here.
So you had a question in regard to which particular developments are in the 5-year plan.
Yes.
On our website, I believe we have what was called the 2015, we did an amendment earlier this year. It was both for flat rent, and it actually also covered the capital plan. Within that document actually has the table that lists the developments, what type of capital work, as well as the dollar amount associated with it. So I can talk to you to get your email, and I can email you the link to that particular
I'm going to
document.
give it to you right now. Everybody in here can have it. Okay. JareeseHuff28@gmail.com. No, I don't got a problem with it. I need to see that. Okay. Does that answer some more?
And actually, I can double check because we used to, we've done a major change to our website, and I know in the past we put on pretty detailed financial documents like our financial plan as well as the capital plan, so I can double check to see where that link is too, because that also provided more information on the capital projects as well as the financial resources. So I'll double check for you also.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm sorry, before Ms. Brian Clark, you can go. You can go.
Okay.
I also wanted to know, we also have a new management in Compost Plaza that consolidated. I have not yet get to meet her yet either. Louis Neves knows. He told her to come and meet me. She went into the new building where I live with CNC, met the new owners, but she has not came to introduce herself to me as a TA leader yet.
So is this the manager for your particular development or the
No,
other campus?
that's the manager for the housing side, New York NYCHA.
Oh, so you haven't met the housing manager, but you've met the one from CNC?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you can answer that.
Hello again.
Hi.
So I just want to be fair. So I just wanted to respond to Ms. McGee's questions. Just I have a couple of answers for her, and then I'm going to jump right to you. Okay.
I'm awake.
So just Ms. McGee, that's one of the reasons why we're changing the priority and moving it up from T3 to T0 is because there's folks that need these reasonable accommodations, and with the current system that we have, it is taking quite a long time to get to them. The challenge that we have is that especially with any transfers, that we have relatively low vacancy. But the thing is that 1 out of every 5 vacancies, so we have the rotation with TSAP. So 2 out of the 5 go towards new applicants, and then 3 go towards transfers, and 1 of those would be need-based. And so, if everything is approved in the plan as we're presenting it, then reasonable accommodation transfers will be T0s, and they should move significantly quicker. But once again, it's also about location, and apartment size. So depending upon the development that is the transfer of choice, there could still be a wait there. But we're giving it now. We're recommending to give it the highest priority, so it should move certainly quicker than it does right now. So just back to your questions. I want to make sure I have them all. So the first one was regarding OpMob. Yes. And so the pilot is 7 months old, and we're rolling out different things. We have not come up with an expansion plan yet. And just regarding consolidations, one of the things we have to evaluate is whether or not we can afford to deconsolidate moving forward. So that's one of the things that we're going to be measuring in the pilot. So we don't have plans to expand it at this point in time, but as soon as we do, we'll certainly share that with you. Regarding going up to your development, you came out tonight, so I'll certainly come up and see you and spend some time.
What time are you coming? I'm waiting for you downstairs.
It's not tonight.
Oh, no, I'm not saying tonight.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
we'll work it out. We'll
just
work
give me a call. I'm going to meet you
We'll
downstairs.
work it out, and we'll make sure the manager joins me.
I want to
Okay?
walk with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next speaker is Beatrice Torres Guzman from Campos Plaza 2.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Like you said, my name is Beatrice Torres Guzman. I'm a 33-year tenant of Campos Plaza 2. I am very active in the community. I'm a member of Goals, the good old Lower East Side. My son is as well. My question is regarding the rental assistance demonstration program. Is there any programs projected in any developments in Manhattan in the near future or in the distant future? I'd like to get more information about the rights of the tenants. What will our rights be? Will that be something that's going to be covered in the so-called focus groups or any other tenant, NYCHA tenant meetings? I'm very interested in knowing what our rights are, and if I understand it clearly, it's a 10-year conversion on a HUD Section 8 lease. So that is something of interest to us. And I also wanted to make a comment about the parking fees and the $150 cap. I've been hearing a lot from NYCHA saying that the parking and having a car is a luxury. For me, it isn't. I am on a fixed income. I am mobility impaired, and I need my car to drive around and do my chores. And I am not in a position to pay $150 a month in parking fees. As a longtime tenant, I don't believe anybody of low or fixed income should be paying $150 a month for parking. And I don't think that this is a straightaway answer, that it's etched in a stone, that it's $150 a month. I know that's the cap, but I would like to know more on, get more information on when NYCHA is going to make a decision, a final decision on how the parking fees are going to be played out. Thank you.
Nicole?
Hi, thank you for your comments. So the copy of the significant amendment is outside, and on page 10, it details the resident rights as part of RAD. But I will point out that, yes, we are having focus groups on the RAD conversion project that we are currently working on, that we just started with the residents out in the Rockaways. This RAD Section 8 conversion is different from other Section 8 programs, so we're walking through with the residents how their rights are going to just transfer right over into the RAD conversion program. At this point, we don't have specific plans for a further conversion because we have to get approval from the federal government to do this program. And other developments, they just approved for us the Rockaways conversion. If we are looking, obviously, as a part of NextGen to stabilize funding for public housing and preserve those units. So if we do put a plan together, we will engage the residents very early on about that plan as we go to HUD to speak to them about that plan. But I do encourage you to read, and you come up to me afterwards, I'll give you my contact information. You have questions about RAD, we can talk about it. Okay?
The next speaker is Aisha Moore from East River Houses.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, I also have a suggestion, and that is, just like she mentioned, Ms. McGee, earlier about how some of the tenants don't have access to internet, iPad, smartphone. What about implementing a kiosk system in some of these developments, especially in the management office? I mean, that will work. You know, sometimes there is a language barrier issue. There are seniors that's sitting in there. When people enter inside of the management offices, you have to ask around who was here first. You go up to the window. Sometimes a receptionist is there. Sometimes there aren't. And they're quick to write down your name, but then you're sitting there for like God knows how long. So what about implementing a kiosk system in some of these OpMom sites, as well as maybe a ticketing system so that when a tenant arrives at some of these management offices, rather than ask each other who's been here for how long, go right up, take a number, you know, speak with the receptionist, take your information, as well as upon seeing someone within a timely fashion, because there's been times I've gone in and sat for like an hour and 35 minutes when there was no one else, no other tenant out there. And I'm talking about going in there when after lunch breaks, which is ridiculous. So if they can take into consideration implementing a ticket system upon entry and exiting out, I think that things can be done in a timely and orderly fashion, and no one will be wasting each other's time. Thank you.
Great suggestion. Thank you. Next speaker, and I'm not sure if this Danielle or Daniel Ramirez. Ramirez is the last name, speaker number 7. Okay, so we'll go to the next speaker, Ms. Debrella Nesbitt from World Houses.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
One of the things that I'm concerned about is the tenants' rights that live in the developments. I'm a new TA president, and I'm learning as I go along. And one of the things that I found was if a resident received a letter telling them that they had to come to management office because it could lead to termination of residency, they didn't know what they was coming to the office for, so they couldn't prepare themselves. And the management would have records that can go back 15 years and expect this resident to be able to answer right then and there. And if that resident is not able to, it's used against them. Another thing about the residents' rights is I found out that management puts documents in the residents' folders and they're not aware of it. They should be notified of anything that's gone in their folder that could be used against them in the future. Someone can go to the police station and make a complaint about you, and it'll go in your folder, and you will never know about it until 4 or 5 years later. And I also feel that the residents should have the right to view their folder at least once a year. I know they are now offering it to them if there are charges involved, but they should have the right to go in there, and they should have the right to question any documents that's in their folder that they are unaware of. Another subject I want to speak about is, I don't know what you call them, people who don't comprehend as well. As TA leader, I found that these are the people with the charges the most, and they don't understand it. And what stands between them is their pride. Even when they do their affidavits, they don't know how to do them, and they'll go, what's this, and they, you know, or they'll try to get somebody to help them, but not still understand what's going on. They may be in general population, but there really is a problem with it, and it's bigger than it's being acknowledged. And that's one of the things that keep me up at night as a TA president, because they would rather sit on the street homeless before they tell you they're not able to read. And one other thing I want to talk about is when she presented the pie on discussing finances, she breezed right over the 67% administrative costs. We were able to talk about everything else, but I was told by a man named Lee Sanders, who's now the head of ASMEs, that, you know, that's one of the things that causes debt is the administrative costs. So I know that she said 67%. So it really seems like that might be where some of the cutting can happen. Because, and another thing is, I don't think you give us enough time, like only one person can talk about 7 things that were presented. Maybe we should have these meetings more often, because what I'm hearing about the new generation now is not what I heard when Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer had a town hall meeting, and I noticed that you were able to tone down the things regarding Manhattan. At the other meeting, we found out that Manhattan was not being treated equal to the other boroughs. And how do we address that? You're telling us we're less than, and personally I have a problem with it, because we're not less than. If you're going to charge all the other 4 boroughs one price for the parking lot, then you should charge us too. I know that the records show that Manhattan didn't support the mayor as much, and it seems like he's remembering this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nesbitt. Next speaker is Elizabeth Maldonado from Douglas Houses.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I would like to request you don't shut me down before what I have to say, for it's the first time I come to your meeting, and it will be the last time. But every meeting I've gone to, there's always shut me down.
I'm sorry, we cannot hear you, Ms. Maldonado.
Okay, I'm asking for you to, could you please this up a little bit more? Because I'm not short. I am asking you not to shut me up while I do my talking, because I have something to say. I live in my development since the age of 2. It's called Frederick Douglass Houses, people. It is a federal public housing development. NYCHA is your caretaker. HUD is your overseer of NYCHA, which Mayor Palacio was your director when Mayor Bloomberg came in. Since then, we've been depreciated, okay, especially in Manhattan. We are between Park West Village and Columbia University. You have to walk through our buildings. Look at our sidewalks. Look at the children they arrested that cannot get work and are very disappointed that the government will do whatever they want, which is bullshit. We are your voters. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I remembered. We are your voters, people. Okay? I don't know how long you people have been working in NYCHA, okay? But I live in this community, and I'm 59 years old, exactly 59 years old. I'm not going nowhere but retiring. Okay? I feel that instead of you building up new buildings and new developments, fix the ones that you depreciated. Get your buildings department to do their jobs. Okay? Call your politicians and your advocates and whoever you have to call people and get them to do their job. There are federal laws and federal job descriptions for everything in the United States. And we, the little people, are the United States because we are the voters. We put them in place and we could take them out if we come together as a unit. Okay? Your management office in my development has no respect for my elderly people or my people that don't understand nothing or speak any other language but their own. You hired, what, civil civics to tell natural-born citizens to sit down? People, we're going to court. I am Elizabeth P. Maldonado, and I've been in NYCHA's court, because it's not Tenelano Court, people. It is NYCHA's court. It is owned by NYCHA, but yet it is a government constitutional agency. So go get your constitutional law on your judicial system, your federal laws and federal job description, and give them hell. Don't let them get away with it no more. You have a good night, sir.
You too. Next speaker is Lorraine Brown, a RAD member.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lorraine Brown, and I'm a member of the Resident Advisory Board, as well as the president of my Tenants Association. And I want to thank NYCHA for allowing us to come tonight to this town hall to voice our concerns. One concern I have, as I look around the room, there aren't many people here. So, of course, there's a communication issue. And I believe robocalls were made to public housing
Yes.
residents. But what about Section 8? We are the orphan of NYCHA's portfolio. We have to communicate better. There should be letters sent out to the Section 8 residents to let them know about the future conversion of RAD. And with that said, I was one of 75 residents that met with Sean Donovan as part of the focus group to discuss RAD, Petra, TRA, and the rights that are out there in the hall, tenants' rights, are because of our focus group. And so to the residents here, If you are in a RAD conversion and your rights are not being addressed, then put your demands, your needs in your memorandum of understanding. And that way you are protected. I have comments I was going to submit, but I'm still being provided with information. So my written comments will be handed out at the August 11th meeting. But what I noticed throughout the documents is the Section 3 is still non-compliant. And in order for you to go forth with any RAD conversion, management must understand the 963 regulations. I picked up the packet outside from Reese, and I asked the young lady specifically if she could show me a tear sheet or an information sheet on the Section 3 resident-owned businesses under 24 CFR 963.1. Of course, in that document, there is nothing. Once again, Section 3 is not just about Reese. If we're talking about self-sufficiency, changing the lives of the residents, everyone must understand the regulation of Section 3, 963. Now, Mr. Kelly had mentioned that we were going to have the training that I've been asking for years, but it should be somewhere in these documents when that training is going to be in October. And so I'd like to see that. So whatever time I have, I'm going to yield to the next speaker. But we have to communicate better with Section 8. I'm going to be meeting with the Director of Resident Engagement. We're going to talk about that. And once again, I want to thank Research and Analysis Department and Resident Engagement because they do such a wonderful job in providing information. Thank you.
Thank you. The next and last speaker is Richard Lee from Smith Houses.
Hi. Just have a question. Whatever happened to the original developments that were proposed to be land leased under the Bloomberg administration?
I'm sorry, you say it one more time?
I said, whatever happened to the original developments that were proposed to be land leased under the Bloomberg administration?
So when the de Blasio administration took office, the land lease initiative was put to the side. So
Okay, so those are off the table.
Nothing moved forward, no, with land lease.
And my other question is, whatever happened to the proposal to renegotiate collective bargaining contracts with NYCHA employees?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that. Anybody here for? We will follow up with you on that question.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
Have a great day, guys.
We'll follow up. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. Again, you can submit your written comments for the draft annual plan for fiscal year 2016 and significant amendment to the FY 2015 annual plan by mail. Again, outside there's a packet and this shows the exact address. So again, we'll be around if you have any additional questions. Thank you for coming tonight and have a great night.